asked 3 teenage boys to wear scream masks while they gangbanged her. And she was married on top of all of this. 31-year-old Brittany Fortenberry is facing a ton of charges, especially soliciting minors. She also lured them in with a promise of alcohol too, which is insane. And the 3 that I just mentioned were not her first rodeo. Apparently she had groomed about 10 boys after an investigation. The youngest boy she groomed was 13 years old.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest or creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Commenting down below, most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video drop. You guys are helping grow in the community. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
Did you hear about the janitor who peed inside his co-worker's water bottle and infected everyone with STDs? Imagine this, you clock into work every morning and fill up your bottle using the water dispenser at the office. But little do you know, you're actually drinking someone's urine. This all happened in Houston when employees at a medical office began noticing that the water dispenser had a sour taste and smell to it. This weird taste and smell was going on for days, and mind you, people were still drinking this water despite the nasty smell and taste. But one employee decided that she was done drinking this water, and instead she began bringing her own water from home. Of course, there were days she didn't finish all her water and left the bottle in her office overnight and then drank it the next day. But it wasn't long until this employee began noticing that the water she brought from home also began having a disgusting smell and taste. She finally decided to do something about this when her co-worker offered to make her a coffee and used the water from her bottle, and they noticed that it smelled like urine. So at this point, these 2 employees spoke to the doctor at the facility and they agreed to do a urine test on the water dispenser, and it came back positive. Now that they knew someone was urinating in the water dispenser, they wanted to find out who this psychopath was, so they set up a hidden camera in the office, and you won't believe what they saw. They caught the janitor, 53-year-old Lucio Diaz, unzip his pants, put his thing inside a bottle, and urinate inside. He then put the cap back on the bottle and returned it to the same spot it was. The employees went straight to the police, and when Lucio was questioned, he admitted to everything and said that he did it out of malicious intent. But this horror story doesn't even end there, because Lucio then told police that he had a sickness. When police asked him to elaborate, he told them that he had STDs and chlamydia. 13 employees had a panel of STD tests performed a few days later, which came back positive for herpes, which is something they never had. This evil man was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, but he was only sentenced to 6 years in prison.
6 years? Nah. My man was peeing inside of the dispenser and knowingly giving it to other people. Man. And the thing is, people, man, that's why I say people say you have to trust your gut, because you said that the water tasted weird, smelled weird, but they still drunk it anyway. Hey, that about to throw me off, man. Bring your own water, beverage, wherever you go, man, if you're in a working environment. Don't trust it.
Humans never meant to know about.
In 2007, a woman living right near a prison in California got home late one night and went right to bed. Around midnight, she woke up to footsteps on her first floor. Assumed it was a roommate, so she goes downstairs to say hi. She yells out to a roommate who doesn't say anything. And then in walks this giant man who she doesn't recognize. She runs upstairs, jumps in her closet into the crawl space, and hides. As she's helplessly tucked away in this little crawl space, trying not to make any sound, all she hears is this giant man sprinting around her house, running into walls, flipping furniture, and screaming in frustration because he can't find her. Finally, after several hours, she slowly opens the crawl space back up, crawls out and gets her phone off the nightstand and calls police. As she's telling the police her story, she describes the person who had broken in. And they stop her and say, "Ma'am, go back in the crawl space and stay there. We'll be there as soon as we can." It turned out a 6'11" convicted murderer had escaped the prison and was still on the loose.
Out in the cornfield is easily giving 2016 clown craze all over again. And trust me when I tell you, I'm all for it. If you don't remember the 2016 clown craze, it's when people were dressing up as clowns and seemingly attacking random people for no reason. They'd be sitting outside of schools, sitting out in abandoned parks, and pretty much just terrorizing people. And that's exactly what I'm getting from Clown in a Cornfield. Because we gotta talk about Frendo. Frendo is like the mascot of this town. And seemingly someone or multiple people are dressing up as him and unaliving people, with seemingly no motive at all. Now look, after watching this trailer and seeing who's making it, it's from the producers of Smile. Y'all know how good Smile was. But it just feels like the complete embodiment of the 2016 clown craze. And I'm gonna be honest, there's pretty much no info about Frendo. I'm pretty sure this is a movie adaptation of a book, but y'all know me, I'm not reading. All I know is there's a movie coming out about somebody dressed up as a clown, made from the same producer that made Smile, unaliving people in a town for seemingly no reason. And all I gotta say is it seems like most of these people are 100% getting packed up. Like there's no way most of these people are even surviving this movie, let alone the first 25 minutes. We see bro run around with a crossbow and a chainsaw, and he's got a sickle. Bro, this movie is going to be absolute peak.
What if I told you the lady behind me was a serial killer and she turned her victims into soap bars? This is Italian serial killer Leonarda Cianciulli. Now, in the 1930s and 40s, she had a really good reputation of making good bars of soap and tea cakes. It was later discovered she killed 3 women and used their remains to conceal the murder and put them inside these bars of soap. She would invite the victims over to her house, drug them, kill them, dismember them, and then incorporate their bodies into the soap bars. She went into great detail when she was caught by authorities of how she makes these soap bars. It was insane. She said this one went onto the boiler like the others. After a while, it was fat and creamy, and she added some cologne to it, and then she said this was the most creamy and best bar of soap she ever made. Now, if you think that's crazy, listen to why she did this. She got a prophecy from a fortune teller telling her that she needs to sacrifice humans or her children will be in danger. After she was caught, she spent about 30 years in prison and then 3 more years in an asylum. She would also take the women's jewelry and belongings and sell it off, increasing her income even more. People were different in the craziest ways back then. Let me know what you guys think about this story in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
I don't think I could look at a bar of soap the same, man. That's gonna stay with you, man, for a while. She made human beings into bars of soap because he said somebody told her if she didn't do it, her children would be in danger, man. People back then, they're on a different type of timing, bro.
Top 3 police officers who actually encountered demons. A police officer named Steven said that whilst working in remote Australia, him and his partner were forced to move an elderly Aboriginal man because the other locals had accused him of witchcraft and other things. So they drove him to his township approximately 1.5 hours away. The other locals were terrified of him, as he was rumored to be a witch doctor, so they dropped him off and warned him not to return to town for 3 days. Steven said they turned the vehicle around and drove back to town, flying probably 100 miles per hour. It took 45 minutes to drive back, but upon their return, Steven said that they found the very same elderly Aboriginal man sitting in the street. He said that to this day, neither of them can explain it, and maybe the other locals had every right to be scared.
The case that haunts me to this day, it was September 6, 2018, and 30-year-old Dallas police officer Amber Guyger had just gotten off her shift. It was 8:40 in the evening, and she had been up since 5:30 that morning, so she was ready to go home, put on some comfy clothes, and relax. She entered the parking garage of Southside Flats, drove to the 3rd floor, parked her car, proceeded into the building, and walked down the hallway to her front door, apartment number 1378. She goes to unlock the door, though, and realizes that not only is it already unlocked, she hears someone moving around inside her apartment. So she enters the unit, gun drawn, and sure enough, sees a man inside her apartment. According to her, she shouted, quote, "Hands up, let me see your hands." She says he starts running towards her. She couldn't see his hands, so she fired twice at this person, Officer Guyger, who admittedly wasn't even fully inside the doorway at this point, walks into the unit and starts to realize something. It wasn't her apartment. Remember when I told you she drove to the 3rd floor of the garage? Well, it turns out she had driven to the 4th floor. Remember when I told you she walked down the hall to apartment 1378? Turns out she was 1 floor up, standing in apartment 1478. So no, Amber Guyger didn't shoot an intruder. She shot a 26-year-old accountant named Botham John, who was sitting on his couch in his apartment eating a bowl of ice cream. She then calls 911 and explains what happened. Wholesome is rushed to the hospital where he dies from his wounds. On October 1st, 2019, Amber Guyger was found guilty of murder. The jury, which could have given her anywhere between 5 and 99 years, sentenced her to 10 years in prison. She'll be eligible for parole this year. What do you think about the sentence? Is 10 years sufficient, or should she have gotten longer?
This teacher asked 3 teenage boys to wear scream masks while they gangbanged her. And she was married on top of all of this. 31-year-old Brittany Fortenberry is facing a ton of charges, especially soliciting minors. She also lured them in with a promise of alcohol too, which is insane. And the 3 that I just mentioned were not her first rodeo. Apparently she had groomed about 10 boys after an investigation. The youngest boy she groomed was 13 years old. She lured them in through like gifts, alcohol, manipulation, and weird advances. Now it gets crazier because the story just doesn't end. Apparently she told cops, "I do not regret anything," after they investigated and questioned her. She said she'd do it all over again. She would also put shrooms in their peanut butter sandwich and say just let it happen and force them to eat it. This is a super predator right here. It's insane. And if none of those tactics work, she would force them to watch her do it with others too. And of course, here's the kicker, her husband was into that stuff. He even threatened the boys, "Don't tell anybody about this or I'll kill you in front of your family." These are just 2 sick and twisted individuals. Her trial is set for June 25th, and her husband is also being charged with intimidation charges too. They're both in on this. I'm sure they're both going to go to jail. Prosecutors are taking this super seriously. What are your opinions on this story?
Murph?
That's mind-blowing, man. That literally sounds off the plot of that Adam Sandler movie called That's My Boy. When that teacher did that, she said she had no regrets. That sounded exactly like that freaking movie, bro. Like word for word, bar for bar. That plot line is literally in the movie. People are insane these days. There's literally no worse to that case, man.
From Impractical Jokers allegedly groomed 2 different girls. I already shared the details of the first story, but here's his second accuser. She hasn't publicly released her name or her image yet, but she did release some disturbing screenshots and allegations. So here's part of the original post. She says she was 16 to 17 when she reached out to say she was a fan, and that's when he offered meet and greet tickets. Here are some of the messages that allegedly show that in 2017. Here's some screenshots of emails showing that yes, these backstage passes, if these screenshots are true, were secured for the young girl. In her original accusation, she says that I met him before the show before dinner and then went to the party where she and her friend were given shots all night. He kissed me. I don't remember much else about that night. Keep in mind, she's claiming she was 16 or 17 when this happened. And I don't know exactly when this photo was taken, how old the girl was, but this is some pretty deeply disturbing stuff. I mean, really take a look at this picture and just take a look at what's going on here. She also shared alleged text messages, which you can find online, where he was begging her to come over in the middle of the night, and she said she went over to his apartment the next day, and that this photo was taken at that time. She claims here that this all happened between the ages of 16 to 18, and claims that she even met girls as young as 15 doing substances with the guys at parties. 15 years old. A lot of people were quick to call these guys completely innocent, but a very disturbing portrait is being painted as more and more of these victims feel comfortable sharing their stories. Now, this is all alleged at this point, keep that in mind. But with proof like this, it's kind of hard to walk everything back, especially when Joe Gatto himself has checked into a rehab facility. There's definitely something that has gone on here.
These 2 were having sex, she called out the wrong name, and he literally ripped her insides out with his bare hands. In 2015, Fidel Lopez murdered Maria Nemeth for saying the wrong name during sex. She called out her ex-husband's name instead of his. And reading about this case was like nightmare fuel. He went on to assault her with a hot curling iron, and then he used his bare hands to reach inside of her body and rip out her intestines. And all of this was happening while she was still alive. He also went on to break bottles and cut her up. Neighbors heard the screaming and called the police. He also shoved his hand right into her orifices and ripped things out. Now obviously for the brutality and senselessness of this crime, he was sentenced to life in prison without chance of parole. Somebody this violent should definitely not be on the streets. I just can't even fathom this whole thing going down and witnessing it. Like if you guys have watched Invincible, that's basically what happened if you read the story. I couldn't even fathom that in real life. It's crazy as a cartoon, but in real life, dude, I can't even imagine. Let me know your opinions on this story in the comments.
This 10-year-old
Man.
boy took the life of his own mother after she refused to buy him a video game. In 2022, Noah Mann asked his mother Kiana if she could buy him a new video game console known as a virtual reality headset. The headset itself was priced at $300 and Kiana refused to buy it due to Noah's bad behavior in school. This upset Noah so badly, he made a plan to get revenge on his mother for not listening to him. One day, Kiana was doing laundry when she was caught by surprise by her own son pointing a gun directly at her. Noah had retrieved the weapon that Kiana kept hidden in the home and he fired 3 shots without any hesitation. Immediately after taking the life of his mother, Noah logged into her Amazon account, ordered the headset, and patiently waited for it to arrive. Police eventually discovered the horrifying scene and arrested Noah for the murder of his mother. Noah never actually got the chance to play the video game that he ordered online before being arrested. While in custody, the prosecution pushed for Noah to be charged as an adult due to the severity of his crimes. After over 2 years of debate, the controversial decision was made and Noah was officially charged as an adult in the murder of his mother. As of the current day, Noah is still in custody as he waits to stand trial for first-degree intentional homicide.
Burr from Impractical.
Over a VR headset? Let me say that again. Over a VR headset. It's never that serious, man. He was acting up and getting bad grades anyway, man. These kids nowadays want to be rewarded for their bad behavior. You just can't let that happen.
Impractical Jokers has been accused of grooming a minor. So recently one of Murr's castmates and friends, Joe Gatto, was accused of sexual assault. But now some screenshots have leaked that show a disturbing pattern of behavior from Murr. So a lot of screenshots here are from 2012, so a long time ago. But here are some of the photos that allegedly show the accuser with Murr. And like she said in that post, she was 17 at the time. And some of these messages are incredibly disturbing. So these messages are coming from Murr's actual Facebook account. It appears to have been verified thoroughly. And she asks right here, when I turn 18 in a year and a half, meaning she was 16 at the time, do you think we could go out? And Murr responds, haha, you're awesome. Once you turn 18, email me the same question and I'll be happy to answer. She says, you gonna stay single? I'll do my best, promise. In other messages that this girl shared, you can see at the top they were talking about dildos, talking about meeting up in person. He would text her and say, love you. And allegedly these real messages just show Murr, who was an adult at the time, showering this teenage girl, a minor, with love and praise. I mean, it's really some disturbing stuff. And at this point, he even asks her, please don't put what I told you about turning 18 on a public message board. So if these indeed are real, he knew what he was doing was wrong, asking her to just delete the posts. I mean, there are a lot of messages here, and this is incredibly disturbing stuff. And as further proof, the accuser even received a voicemail from Murr and Joe years ago.
What's on the TV show Impractical Jokers? Remember that one where you still get John's name right now?
So yeah, with all this having come out, that means 2 of the 4 Impractical Jokers cast members have now been accused of doing some really inappropriate things with young women. But the allegations against Murr don't stop there. I'm going to post a part 2 with some more allegations that a different girl shared about her time spent chatting and meeting up with Murr, sometimes while she was underage. And in my opinion, this seems to just be the tip of the iceberg here.
The scenes coming out of Myanmar right now are insane. Hundreds of people are feared dead after the country was hit with an earthquake so powerful that it was felt as far as Thailand and China. The building you're seeing collapse right now is all the way over in Bangkok. At about 2 p.m. local time, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake rocked central Myanmar, causing roads to buckle, bridges to crumble, buildings and houses to collapse. And this has got to be one of the most terrifying things ever. Some tourists were trapped on the top of a high-rise while the water from the rooftop pool poured over the side of the building due to the shaking. That water then fell onto and swept away the people trying to run away on the ground. Insane. The Red Cross said that electricity and network lines are down, which is making it hard to carry out humanitarian aid. People can be seen evacuating buildings and crouching on the tarmac at the airport, while rescue workers are already saying that the damage is enormous. Over in Bangkok, Thailand, 70 construction workers are now missing at the site of the building which collapsed. Reports say that around 320 workers were on the site at the time, and that around 20 of them are freaking trapped in the lift shafts. And to make this whole situation even more devastating, Myanmar has been ruled by a military junta since a coup in 2021. So not only does the state control almost all of the media and restrict access to the internet, making it a lot more difficult to get information about the full extent of this catastrophe, but there's also an already existing major humanitarian crisis in the country. 3.5 million people are displaced. 20 million people are in need of humanitarian aid. And that's before before the earthquake. But of course, as this situation develops, I'll keep you guys updated.
A gateway to hell,
Crazy.
demons, and paranormal Nazi experiments. This is one of the most haunted locations in the whole world. High atop a steep rocky cliff about an hour north of Prague, you will find Houska Castle. This early Gothic-style castle was built between 1253 and 1278 and is home to some very dark and interesting history and legends. One of the first interesting things to point out about the castle is that many of the windows are actually fake. They're just glass panes on top of the wall. Now, why was the castle built to begin with? Nobody really knows. It is believed that it was first built to be an administrative center. It was built with no water source, no kitchen, no fortifications, and for years after it was constructed, no occupants. It had absolutely no strategic value, it wasn't along any trading routes, but it did protect the gateway to hell. Legend says that it was built over a seemingly bottomless pit, which they called the gateway to hell, and at night, half animal, half human creatures would crawl from the pit, as well as black-winged creatures taking pedestrians and dragging them back down into the bottomless hole. The castle was built with the chapel specifically right over top of the pit to keep the evil sealed in. Now this gateway to hell has since been sealed, but visitors tend to hear scratching coming from underneath the floors, as well as a chorus of screams. Allegedly, when the castle was being built, the nearby village's death row inmates were offered a pardon if they were willing to be lowered into the pit by a rope and report what they saw. One man who was lowered in began screaming after a few seconds. When he was pulled back up, his hair was completely white and his face had aged 30 years. Supposedly so horrified by what he saw, he was condemned to a mental asylum where he died of unknown causes 2 days later. To make this place even more chilling, in the 1930s it was occupied by Nazi forces. As documents of their time in the castle have been destroyed, it is completely a mystery what they actually did in the castle. Some believe they were trying to harness the power of hell as well as working on paranormal weapons. After the war, in the courtyard of the castle were 3 Nazi skeletons. How or why they were killed still remains a mystery as well.
That place sound like it's haunted to the freaking core, bro. It literally says the gateway bit to the underworld, man. That's the only reason why it was built. It's in the Czech Republic too. Check that off the list. We will not be going there. Gateway to the underworld. I'm good.
Another cold case has been solved after 42 years thanks to advanced DNA technology and a best friend that never gave up fighting for justice. 14-year-old Deanna Lynn Johnson went to a party in her own neighborhood in November 1982, and she never returned home. This was not like her at all, so her mother reported her missing, but unfortunately the next day her body was found just across the street on a set of railroad tracks. She had been strangled and beaten to death. DNA was found under her fingernails, but at the time it could not be used to find her killer. In the initial investigation, 17-year-old Marvin Ray Markle was identified as a suspect. He was a peer of Deanna's and he was at the same party that night. But despite investigators' best efforts to prove he committed the murder, they could not, and Deanna's case went cold. Marvin Markle popped back up on investigators' radar in 2004 when they discovered he was a suspect in another homicide, the 2001 murder of 41-year-old Shirley Ann Pratt. But it would take another 9 years for an arrest to be made in Shirley's case. In 2013, Markle was arrested though, and he was charged with the murder of Shirley Pratt. That case went to trial in 2014, and he was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 80 years in prison for Shirley's death. And during all of this, investigators were still looking at Markle for Deanna's murder. They went to the trial for Shirley's murder and tried to collect any evidence they could against Markle. And finally, in 2017, they had enough. On January 24th, 2017, police charged Marvin Markle, who was already incarcerated at Kern Valley State Prison for Shirley's murder, with the murder of Deanna Johnson. He pleaded not guilty, but everybody was sure that he was the one who killed Deanna. Her childhood best friend, Mary Borchers, said it was widely known among her peers that Markle, who was known as Ziggy, had been responsible for Deanna's murder. Mary said, quote, "Everybody knew in our minds it's always been Ziggy, 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 but no one ever came straight out and made it factual." Mary Borchers has spearheaded the pursuit of justice for many years, playing a pivotal role in gathering evidence against Markle. The retired detective who worked on the initial investigation
Christian said about Mary, quote, "I give Mary a lot of credit. I'm retired and there's nothing I can do about it. She went to court every day. She was trying to help the parents and make sure Markle got what's coming to him. Since Markle pleaded not guilty, he went to a jury trial, which lasted 3 weeks. But this week, 59-year-old Markle has been convicted of Deanna's murder. Finally, after 42 years, Deanna Johnson has justice. Deanna was a bubbly, giggly young woman who put others before herself. Those who loved her are feeling relief that her killer has finally been caught. Rest in peace, Deanna."
I believe what he's referring to is the Australian Aboriginal tale of the Featherfoot. The Aboriginals claim that this was an evil spirit that kills people. And as the name suggests, they have feathers all over their body, including their feet. But what's weird about this is that it's stuck together with human blood. The Aboriginals also stated that these things could fly, so it's like Australian Mothman. The Featherfoot will literally follow you until it's time to attack. It'll make all these noises or follow silently, and the moment you turn around is when it lunges and attacks you. If you're one of my Australian followers and you feel like you're being followed, maybe just run and don't turn around.
Wary of the Featherfoot, noted. When I'm in an Aussie, bro.
Scary Places Australia Part 11. This one takes us to where many travellers stop on their trip between Northern Territory and WA, and it's a town called Kununurra. Now, one of the sights to see is this beautiful crossing called Ivanhoe Crossing. Yep, I was hesitant to cross because of the fear of the dangerous saltwater crocodiles that live here, until I saw heaps of the locals just relaxing in the deep rock pool areas. Now, this is a warning not to swim off the concrete causeway, as there can be flooding and very fast moving water, and sadly people have been swept under the water and not made it, including a 6-year-old girl. There has also been an increasing number of man-eating crocs, and you may have seen these beasts dragging up a full-size cow down the waterway. But in recent weeks there has also been a pet dog mauled by a saltwater crocodile. Do not swim here.
So why were people in there sitting in the rocks, acting like everything all sweet, everything good in the hood, man? They got Crocs in that water? Man, I heard Australia's, man, is like home to like one of the like deadliest predators on Earth, man. The spiders are huge.
The most disturbing cults in history, Part 5. Australia's most notorious cult ran in secrecy by a yoga teacher who believed she was the reincarnation of Jesus, fed LSD to children, and wanted to create a master race. Buckle up, because this one is quite the story.
Okay.
Born in 1921, Anne Hamilton Byrne grew up outside of Melbourne, Australia. When she was young, her mother died in a mental hospital, and her father wasn't too keen on being a single parent, so she bounced around to different orphanages. Later in life, she had a child and lost her husband in a tragic car accident. That is when she took up yoga and began teaching it in the city. In the 60s is when mysticism and Eastern religion began to make their way west, and a lot of people were very interested in it. During one of her yoga lessons, she met physicist Dr. Raynor Johnson. He referred to Anne as the wisest, serenest, most gentle, gracious soul he had ever met. Together, they began using LSD and started to recruit members into the cult, which was known as the Family. They used Johnson's property right outside of the city of Melbourne as their headquarters, where they held weekly meetings. They spread a mishmash of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity. Another large outlet for new recruits was the New Haven Hospital, which was mostly ran by members of the family. Many of the patients at the New Haven Hospital they treated with LSD. She easily became a multi-millionaire funded by the cult members. She got everything she wanted from the cult members: homes, cars, money, and eventually even children. When the 1970s rolled around, 28 children became members of the family. Some were offsprings of members, others were falsely adopted, and some even stolen. With such powerful people working for the family, such as doctors and attorneys, anything was possible for them to acquire. All of the children were told that Anne was their biological mother. Their identities were completely changed and they were given fake birth certificates. She dyed all of their hair blonde, changed all of their last names to Hamilton Byrne, all to convince them that they were related. She kept the charade going by wearing homemade smocks to fake her pregnancies and told the members of the family that they would survive the end of the world and become the new master race. Anne, along with her husband Bill, were the unquestioned leaders of the cult. Beatings were commonplace to children who stepped out of line, and they were given daily doses of Valium to keep them docile. This continued on until they reached the age of 14. That is when a bizarre initiation ritual was done. They would be given an insanely large dose of LSD and locked in a room alone. They would only be seldomly visited by Anne or one of the cult psychiatrists. As you can imagine, this had long-lasting impacts on all the children and cult members. When screaming would be heard by neighbors and police were summoned to the property, the children were instructed to hide and cram into this tiny hole. Her only rule was do everything she says. The family's motto was unseen, unknown, unheard, and they had little contact to the outside world. It wasn't until 1987 when a 14-year-old girl named Sarah Moore was expelled from the group for not behaving and went right to police. Police raided their headquarters on August 14th, and all the children were placed in protective custody. As for Anne and Bill, they fled the country. For 4.5 years, they hid in upstate New York before finally being extradited back to Australia. Despite a massive investigation, raids on the property, they spent little to no time in jail. In the end, they only had to pay 3 $5,000 fines for falsifying 3 of the birth certificates. Like, that is it. After destroying so many lives, that is it. Unfortunately, on this one, no justice was served, and Anne spent her last years suffering from dementia in a Melbourne nursing home. She died at the age of 98 in 2019.
All she got was had to pay some fines, man.
What's the scariest
Messed
story you know
up.
that is 100% true? This is an incident that happened to me about 10 years ago. I live in Melbourne. I was driving home from work one night around 9 p.m. midweek, so the roads were quiet. As I was driving downhill, I heard a sound that was like a jet engine roaring behind me. The next thing I know, a car goes flying past me going twice the speed limit. It looked like a fairly old crappy car. The car's speed wobbles, and then one of the tires came flying off and rolled at speeds downhill whilst the car spun out and crashed. I stopped my car, and inside was okay. A guy got out of the car and looked over at me, then started moving extremely quickly towards me. I don't know why, but I hit my internal locks on the car, which was fortunate because no more than 2 seconds later, the guy started grabbing at the driver's side door and smashing on my windscreen with it. He'll never forget the crazy look he had in his eyes. I put my foot down on the accelerator and drove off back home. I decided to swap cars once I got home and drove back to see what was going on. I saw 2 fire trucks and about 4 police close to where the incident happened. When I got back to the crash site, the guy was no longer there, so I decided to head home. The next day at work, I was online bored reading the news when I saw an article that shocked me. The article was about a guy who had been in a police chase for 1 hour, and the police stopped chasing him because it was becoming too dangerous. Turns out the guy was high on meth, had stolen a car an hour's drive away, and had been in a hot pursuit since. After crashing the car, the guy apparently crossed to the other side of the road and hailed the first car that appeared, which was a taxi. He got into the taxi and stole it. In the process, he pushed the driver out of the driver's side door, and the driver got stuck and dragged at speeds. The driver died from the incident. I called the police and had a detective assigned to me. He fingerprint checked my car and got a statement. I had to testify in the Supreme Court as a key witness in a murder trial. The guy got 30 years, and they told me that my testimony was one of the main factors in convicting him. I often think back to that night and wonder if I hadn't locked my doors, would I have been the one who got murdered?
Eerie.
This is the Yowie. It's originally known as the Yahoo, and it's been considered to be Australia's Bigfoot. It's said that it's been around since the 1700s by Aboriginal natives. It's around 5 to 9 feet tall, has brown or reddish fur with talon-like claws, and 2 large fangs, almost like a canine. Unlike the other species of Bigfoot, the Yowie is said to be a very aggressive creature. It's been known to tear off the heads of kangaroos and dogs, and if that's not bad enough, it also attacks people. But that's rare. You'll know if you're close to one because it'll smell like a rotten animal. Their growls are guttural and loud. Many people report that there might be more than one, and when 2 are together, the creatures have been heard communicating with one another in a rapid, garbled speech. Sightings mainly occur in the southern region of Australia, but have been known to be spotted in the north as well. The best thing to do when coming into contact with one is to stay calm, and don't go near it. Due to its aggressive nature, it's unpredictable and dangerous.
So y'all is basically like their version of Bigfoot.
Have
Noted.
you heard the legend of Burning Airman in Canberra? If not, sit back and listen. 1940, during World War II, a Lockheed Hudson II bomber plane crashed into a forest near Canberra. Unfortunately, all crew members on board perished. Years later, locals started seeing strange occurrences in the woods near the crash site. People saw strange lights in the sky, the sound of a plane crashing, but no one being able to find anything. Then, the first sighting of the Burning Man appeared. A girl was screaming and running from the forest, claiming that she was being followed by an airman covered in flames. He was followed to the edge of the forest where the Burning Man just disappeared. Since then, many sightings and reports were made about the man who walked through the woods on fire, stalking people. But no one knows its true intentions. Why is it only walking through this forest? Is it harmless? We may never know. But what do you all think? Is there a burning airman who haunts the forest in Canberra? Or is it just another urban legend? You decide.
I have to go with urban legend until I see it for myself.
An
man.
Australian creature most of you don't know about. Most know the koala, but did you know it has a scarier relative? The drop bear legend tells of a large carnivorous marsupial related to the koala that drops on its prey. New research shows they attack people with foreign accents more than those who are Australian born. Listen to what they sound like. Beware the drop bear.
So if you're a visitor, man, the drop bear gonna get you.
Does this monster inhabit waterholes of Australia? According to Aboriginal Australian legend, the bunyip lurks in billabongs, creeks and swamps. It's reported that bunyip is an Aboriginal word meaning demon, devil or evil spirit. It's described as having a body resembling an ox or a hippo, a long neck and a round head. Although some accounts suggest it has a human figure and long claws. This nocturnal cryptid is said to have a howl that carries through the night air, making people afraid to enter the water. Legend suggests that it will devour passing livestock or anyone unfortunate enough to wander within its range. The water-dwelling beast has baffled residents of Australia since the 1800s, with many encounters having been reported. So is it simply a scary story of folklore, or is there some truth to the legend of the bunyip?
Folklore on that one.
By the window, he comes tiptoe through the tulip with me. Oh, tiptoe from the garden, by the garden, of the willow, she comes tiptoe through the tulip with me.
More orbs in the sky? You've seen that this
Did you
year.
know about the Australian Bigfoot? The Yowie is a legendary creature that is believed to roam the Australian outback. The Yowie has been described as having an ape-like face, orangey brown hair, a large red mouth, and talon-like claws. They can also range in size, standing at between 5 and 12 feet high. It has been a part of First Nations legends for centuries, with many stories of the creature attacking humans. First Nations cave art also depicts tall, hairy creatures painted alongside humans. It is said to be normally shy and curious, but it can also turn aggressive and violent. Although many people doubt the existence of the Yowie, thousands of sightings have been reported over the years. Whether you believe in the Yowie or not, the remote Australian outback continues to be a place of great mystery. Follow me for more.
Yowie and Bigfoot, are they related? Did we ever
The
think about that?
Yaramayha-who is a real-life mystery from Australian Aboriginal folklore. According to legend, this creature is a small, red, and frog-like humanoid that lurks in the dense forests and jungles of Australia. The Yaramayha-who is said to have a bizarre and terrifying method of hunting its prey. It waits patiently in the trees for unsuspecting travelers or lost children to pass by. When it spots a potential victim, it pounces from the branches and lands on them, using its large, sucker-like mouth to drain the victim's blood. Once the Yaramayha-who has fed, it regurgitates the victim back up, but with a gruesome twist. The creature's saliva has a powerful hypnotic effect, causing the victim to become weak and disoriented.
The Yaramayha-who then swallows them again, and the process repeats until the victim becomes smaller and weaker with each feeding. The creature is said to have a peculiar diet, as it only consumes victims who are gradually transformed into a Yaramayha-who themselves. After several feedings, the victim undergoes a bizarre metamorphosis, becoming a creature similar to the Yaramayha-who with red skin and a sucker-like mouth. They are then released by the creature to roam the forests and jungles and continue its cycle of hunting. The Yaramayha-who legend has been passed down through generations of Australian Aboriginal communities. It serves as a cautionary tale, warning children to stay away from the dense and remote areas of the wilderness to avoid encountering this malevolent creature.
We're going to talk about an absolute nightmare fuel farm located in Australia. On this property where one of our followers lives sits a very old house, which they've affectionately dubbed the Old House. That's so funny because, like, the house on my parents' haunted farm we also call the Old House. They and their brother spent most of their childhood roaming around and exploring the farm and the old house. It was super common for them to just spend all day just out exploring. Now, this old house was very much intact, and that's surprising because no one had lived in that house since World War II. One day, they and their brother were just spending the entire day with a few friends that were there picking some fruit and exploring the farm. Eventually, they decided to go to the old house. They slid under the fence, dodged the cows that were kept in the little fence around the house, and went inside. They parted ways and gathered old bottles and other things that they found around the house, and then gathered back on the kitchen floor to show each other their treasures. Now, this day was very hot and not windy, but as they were gathered on this kitchen floor looking at all of their bottles, they felt a cold breeze shoot through the house. It went into the living room, right to them into the kitchen. Our followers started to feel like they were being watched and got up to look at the window and found that a bull was staring eye to eye with them through this window. They started feeling like they needed to run, but the problem is that bull was blocking one door and the other exit was down a really creepy hallway that no one wanted to do, so they stayed a bit longer. They start to take note that at this point nature has gone completely silent and the usual noisy birds that never stop chirping had stopped. Like I said, they're hearing no sounds, so tell me why anytime they look back up at this bull, it is closer. It is getting closer to the window without making any noise. Eventually, the bull's face was pressed against the window, and it was not blinking, just a stare. This bull didn't move once while they were looking at it. As soon as they looked away, the bull would move closer. They all started to get the gut feeling like they were prey, and they needed to get out of there. The friends all got up at the same time and took off down the hallway, out that back door, outside, over the fence, and away. They said the entire time, even inside the house, they felt like they were being chased. They didn't go back to that house for years after this happened and still get really uneasy even being around it.
I wouldn't either, man. You getting chased by a freaking bull.
Zion Clark was born without legs because of a rare genetic condition and dreams of becoming a multi-time Olympic champion. He recently achieved the record for the fastest man on his hands in the world. Measured at a length of 24 feet, Ayana Williams has the female record for the longest fingernails on a pair of hands. Next, this video shows 20-year-old Karubal Yoma from Ethiopia performing a unique talent as he attempts to break the record for the longest time to spray water from his mouth. He achieved the record spraying water for 56 seconds straight. This clip shows Sultan Kosin from Turkey and Chandra Dongi from Nepal as they're meeting for the first time in 2014. At the time, Sultan was the tallest man in the world, measuring a staggering 8 foot 2 inches, whereas Chandra was the shortest, measuring just 21.5 inches tall.
Okay, this picture is absolutely terrifying. Yesterday in Australia, this girl drops her phone and it falls in between these two boulders. She then reaches to try grab it, falls in, and ends up getting trapped upside down. And if anyone is getting Nutty Putty cave vibes from this, well, you should. Her friends did everything they could to try and get her out, but eventually, out of desperation, they called emergency services. She remained upside down for a staggering 7 hours while rescue teams used this specialized winch to remove the boulders and then gently snake her out. When she was rescued, she felt dizzy, her head was swollen, and it took a while for her to regain feeling in her legs again. Her phone was never found. These are the weird...
All that for a phone? Man, if you see it fall, like, that's like, man, when the phone falls into like the crack of the you know, the couches and stuff like that, you know, that space where there's just like an empty void that goes in there. It's gone forever, bro. Man, if I see your phone fall down the boulder in a crack like that, I can't. I kind of get claustrophobic vibes, so I can't do it.
It is world records on Earth. Alright, so first, this woman has the longest fingernails in the world. And apparently they measure 4 foot 6 inches. All I'm wondering is how does she wipe? And this man has the stretchiest skin in the world because when he was younger, he was diagnosed with a disease that caused his skin to be super stretchy. He's kind of like Elastic Man from the Fantastic Four. And finally, this guy has the biggest tongue in the world. And when he inflates it, his tongue looks way bigger than a golf ball. Believe me, his girlfriend hasn't left him in 10 years.
This is the ugliest woman in the whole world. That is the sad, unofficial title this woman received in the 1900s. Her name is Maryanne Bevan, and this is her story. She was born in London in 1874 to a middle-class family, and in 1894 she became a nurse. She married Thomas Bevan in 1903, but only 3 years later she was struck by a rare disease that doctors didn't know much about. The hormonal disease is known as acromegaly, which affects the bones. This causes the bones to grow 2 to 3 times more than normal, and usually only affects the hands and feet. But her case was severe, and it affected her whole body. As you can tell by the photos, her appearance changed drastically in just a few years. Her husband, although confused about what was happening to his wife, stuck by her side until he tragically died of a stroke in 1914, and she was left to raise 4 children alone. Her disease even caused her to lose her job, but she was determined to do what she had to for her children. She was forced by her predicament to join a contest which was the ugliest woman in the world, where she won first prize. The media would pay her small amounts to take photos and write horror stories about her. Honestly, she should have won Best Mother in the World award for doing all this for her children. Due to all the media attention, she was actually invited to work at the Dreamland Circus on Coney Island in 1920. For 13 years, she worked in the freak show business, suffering being called a monster, a freak, being beaten up, all to watch her children grow. On December 26, 1933, she died of natural causes.
The things society will do, bro, just because you don't meet, I guess, a beauty standard. It's sickening, man. Like you said.
Here's the meaning behind beloved rapper's names. Starting off, we have X. He said his name revolves around the unknown in his life, but let's have a listen.
So X Tentacion means unknown temptation. Significance of the X. For some time, the X was the only unknown numeral to me. So, Tentacion is temptation in Latin. So I actually just pushed the two together in unknown temptation because I feel as if that's what my life revolves around.
Next, we have Juice WRLD. His name was heavily inspired by Tupac and a misspelling, but let's have a listen.
The haircut, like the juice cut, like Tupac when he had a movie. I think WRLD came from me spelling it wrong. I think I was making like an account or something, and I spelled it wrong because WRLD was actually taken.
And finally, we have Lil Uzi Vert.
I already had the vert part. It was like vertical, like straight up. One day I was rapping and there was this guy. He was out there. He was like, "Oh man, you rap fast like a machine gun, like a little Uzi or something."
The Jungle Book was based on a real person. Yes, we're speaking about Mowgli. Around 1867, a group of Indian men were out hunting. They came across a cave where they heard animal-like sounds. They entered the cave to find a child no older than 6 amongst a family of wolves. This boy couldn't stand on 2 feet. He crawled around on all 4, and he couldn't even talk. In fact, he mimicked the sounds of the wolves he was living with. The hunters killed the wolves and took the boy back to an orphanage. Over the years, he learned to stand upright, but never really learned how to talk. Instead, he continued making animal-like sounds the rest of his life. They named this boy Dinasamicha. Also, have you heard about my upcoming documentary? You can check the pinned for more info.
The Jungle Book was based off a real story? Hey man, like I said, I learned watching these clips together with you guys, man, that these kid movies and TV shows, they're always based off of like a story that's out there, man. So can't put it past them. But that was a classic, and I never even knew that.
These are the craziest world records that will blow your mind. Part 1.
Talk about it.
Gary Turner, the man with the world's stretchiest skin. He can stretch his skin up to 6 inches due to a rare disorder in his connective tissue and ligaments. Next is Karsten Mass, who has the world record for the longest usable golf club. The club is over 14.5 feet long, and somehow he's still able to hit precise drives. Finally is Nick Stoberl, the man with the world's longest tongue. His tongue is almost 4 inches long. Well, I think we know who's going to be playing Venom in The Amazing Spider-Man 3.
What the heck? What do you even do? The tongue that freaking long, bro.
This story is just one of those stories that is going to stick with you forever. Nicola Gobo was born on November 16th of 1972 in Melbourne, Australia. While she was in law school, she wasn't around the best crowd as her boyfriend Brian Wilson was a drug dealer. Her house had been raided twice and she was scared that this was going to ruin her law career. No charges were given to her, and soon enough she was registered as a police informer. Once she had graduated, she ended up becoming an attorney for some of Australia's most dangerous gangsters. Now this is where things get crazy. I learned this story from Informant's Lawyer X podcast. It's an exclusive Wondery Plus series, and stick to the end so you can get 60 days free to check it out. From 2005 to 2009, Nicola was responsible for more than 5,000 reports and regularly spoke to detectives about the clients she had sworn to defend.
Ooh.
Even after the police were instructed they could no longer get information from her, Nicola was still giving them information up until 2012. When Nicola was supposed to be helping these people, she was secretly giving all of their information to the police. I don't want to give away too much from the story because you need to hear it for yourself on Wondery Plus from famed prosecutor Marcia Clark. Wondery Plus has exclusives and early releases just like Informant's Lawyer X. You guys can try 60 days free of Wondery Plus. Just go to wondery.fm/lawyer60 and type in lawyer60 under your coupon code at checkout.
What if someone from the future told you that all digital data in the world will get deleted in 2033? A guy named Peter Reuter claims to be a time traveler from the year 2062 and says that's exactly what's going to happen. The creepy tale of K63 is presented to us today by Spotify, and yo, it gets even crazier. His name is Peter Reuter, who says in November of 2022, patient 0 of a deadly virus started an infection at JFK Airport. According to his story, a new variant of the virus known as Pegasus will spread to infect the entire world. Dr. Eliza Knight was assigned to Peter's case, who tells her the end of the world is closer than we think. According to him, kids being born now will be known as the IP, or interpandemic generation, who will grow up glued to a screen and fearing social contact. In 2031, we finally establish our first colony on Mars, but that's nothing compared to the discovery we make there 11 years later. On March 30th, 2033, the world will experience the Great Deletion, in which an AI tasked with cleaning up junk files ends up deleting literally everything. Just imagine waking up one day with no email, no social media, your entire digital footprint is completely erased. Then, in August 2042, that colony on Mars uncovers an ancient city buried under the Martian surface, which apparently teaches us how to time travel. Ultimately, October 2053 is when the entire world crumbles for good. But then, the unexpected happens. Dr. Knight wakes up in the year 2012, where she's now the patient, and a familiar doctor is interviewing her about her mental health, which is the plot of the scripted audio thriller K63, a Spotify original audio series that's oddly close to reality. Season 2 just dropped, so you can binge both seasons now on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts.
It sounds like they were cherry picking from, the actual history, man, what's going on now, bro. They included AI, this, I guess, generation of kids that don't want to go outside and just, what they say is style, where everybody be saying go outside, touch grass. They're not too far off. I gotta give them that, man. You guys believe in time travel?
Here's a test to see if you or someone you know has trypophobia. Trypophobia is the fear of tightly packed holes. Starting off at number 1, we have this photo. This one makes me feel a bit uncomfortable to look at, but the next one's even worse, so if this freaks you out, don't watch the next level. At level 2, we have this. It said that tiny packed holes on the hand are what make people the most uncomfortable. If this one is grossing you out, do not watch level 3. Okay, this one actually freaked me out. I don't know what it is about the fingers of the palm, but this one definitely makes me uncomfortable. Congrats if you passed all the levels, and send this to a friend to see if they can.
I made it.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better. Part 2. If you've already made it to the airport without dying, you shouldn't be nervous about flying because you've already made it to the deadliest part of plane travel.
Whenever you pet an animal, it actually lowers your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Side note, this may not work on electric eels, porcupines, or anything that could decimate you in 2 seconds. Because guinea pigs get lonely, it's actually illegal in Switzerland to own just one. You have to get at least 2 if you want to have any at all. Sometimes tarantulas will keep tiny frogs as pets. The frogs will eat small insects that would typically eat the tarantula eggs, and in exchange, the frog gets a pretty damn good bodyguard. Capybara Land is a place in Japan where you can quite literally hang out with capybaras and see them chilling in hot springs. If 99% of the world's population finds you unattractive, that would mean that 78 million people still find you attractive.
There's a batch out there for everybody, bro. Don't let them tell you different. Edits.
Inappropriate children's books that actually exist, Part 2. The Loneliest Hoe in the World, written by Travis Heaton and published in 2002, this Christmas tale begins with Santa preparing to depart with his reindeer. He congratulates his elves on a job well done by sharing with them some elf juice, and then boards his sleigh until coming to the realization that he's forgotten his hose. Christmas isn't Christmas without hose, Santa proclaims. Ain't that the truth? You Can't Be an Astronaut, It's Just Not Realistic, written by Joseph Smets. This book is a 26-page story that documents a boy who meets astronauts and shares his dream of having their career in his future. They point blank tell him not to bother. They go further by telling him of the complicated prerequisites and the difficult trigonometry. And when the boy asks if he can be an astrologist instead, they tell him astrology is a joke of a career.
Gruesome facts you didn't know.
Crushing dreams.
12. If you ever have kidney stones, simply take a ride on Thunder Mountain at Disney. In 2016, researchers took a model kidney on the ride to see if this rumor was actually true. They found that sitting in the back seat of the coaster would pass kidney stones 64% of the time. Sitting in the front, only about 17% of the time. This photo from the early 1900s shows 2 boys who were exposed to the same smallpox source. One was vaccinated, one wasn't. In 2007, at the age of only 38, Mark Bamber passed away from heart failure. To accommodate his 700-plus pound body, a special mahogany casket was made, which was nearly 8 feet long and 30 inches deep. At the time, there was no hearses that could accommodate a casket that large, so it had to be pulled by horse. After a horse riding accident, Emily Eccles was left with her jaw hanging on by only 1 millimeter of skin. Her surgeon said that her injury is the worst they've seen outside of a war zone. It took facial reconstructive surgeon Ricardo Muhammad Ali 5.5 hours to perform the surgery. This is her ready to go back to school just 1 month after the accident. In 1995, at the age of 61, artist William Utermohlen was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. From the time of his diagnosis until the year 2000, he created self-portraits, a powerful documentation of his descent into the illness. In 1923, jockey Frank Hayes won a race at Belmont Park in New York despite being dead. Mid-race, he suffered from a heart attack, but managed to stay in the saddle until he crossed the finish line.
Here's what scientists actually found at the bottom of the Mariana's Trench. In 1960, 2 men decided to try and get to the bottom in this ship. But scientists were almost positive that they wouldn't find anything since it was 36,000 feet underwater, which would cause so much pressure and make it hard for anything to live that far down. After spending 5 hours going all the way down to the bottom, they stayed there for 20 minutes and the scientists on the surface were shocked. They started hearing weird sounds of something grinding against their ship. They decided to look on their monitor and they saw a massive shadow with 3 heads. But people think that they were just seeing things because of how tired they were. However, once they got to the surface, the walls of their ship, which was 5 inches thick, was completely destroyed. And the weird thing is, they all kept this to themselves for 36 years until it was posted in the New York Times. But years before this, lobster catchers had claimed that they had repeatedly saw a big fish, which fit the description of a megalodon which has been extinct for over 3 million years. But could one be hiding at the bottom of the ocean? What do you guys think? At first it just looks like
Do you think one? A megalodon at the bottom of the ocean, man? We haven't even explored, I've heard, like, of course, man, we haven't explored, like, all of our oceans, bro. It's still a part of it that we haven't accounted for. So, that very could be a possibility. Imagine a big megalodon just circling our world right now, bro. Just deep, deep, deep undersea, and we have no idea. Scary.
like a normal staircase, right? Well, now what I want you to do is flip your phone upside down, then blink your eyes and watch what happens.
I need some of you guys to try that. Tell me what you see.
Maps that will change the way you see the world. If did not vote was counted as a candidate in the 2020 US presidential election, it would have won with 278 electoral votes. Americans were asked to point where Iran is. All the green dots are the people who got it right, and the orange dots are the rest of the guesses. Iowa has 99 counties, and it could have been a clean 100 if this one up here just followed suit with the rest of them next to it. This is what the world could look like about 250 million years from now if no international borders changed. This was the Roman Empire, and this was the Mongol Empire at their biggest sizes ever. The red highlighted places are the only places in the world where you don't need a permit to buy a gun. Basically just most states in the United States and Yemen. Follow for more.
That's scary. Deuces, I'm out.
Okay guys, you're out in the woods and you hear these screams. What's the first thing that comes to mind? This literally sounds like someone is being murdered. And I don't blame her for thinking that it's someone screaming, because I did too. But after doing some research on this, a lot of people were saying that this is either a mountain lion or a bobcat. There's also this video that's so terrifying and sounds like a horror movie. So yeah, if you ever hear this out in the woods, it's just an animal and not someone getting murdered.
Just one date with him in 2018, Arizona woman Jacqueline Adis allegedly sent a man over 159,000 texts over a 10-month span. Some of the texts were incredibly disturbing threats like, "I'd make sushi out of your kidneys and chopsticks out of your hand bones. I'd wear your fascia in the top of your skull and your hands and feet." Adis was later arrested for trespassing inside the man's home while he was out of the country, but she was later declared mentally incompetent to stand trial and the charges were dropped. This is the 2,000-year-old skull of Mary Magdalene on display at St. Maximin Basilica in France. It's considered to be one of the most precious relics in all of Christendom. In 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson drove his car into a ditch while driving home from a party. He called his parents and told them he was fine, but wasn't sure exactly where he was. Nearly 50 minutes into the call, he suddenly yelled, "Oh shit," and then went silent. He's never been seen nor heard from again.
No, I don't. 4 of them? Never heard about them before. This is my first time hearing about something like this.
The influencer that was caught stealing $500 worth of stuff from Target and then posting it on TikTok was caught stealing again from the same Target. So the first time she was arrested was in October, and then she went on TikTok and posted a video with a huge caption basically saying that it doesn't define her and that she's going to try to do better. Now, 2 weeks later, she's caught again at the same Target that she stole the first time, but instead of stealing $500 worth of stuff, this time it was only $200. I already spoke about why people are so invested in this story, and it has to do with her using the items that she steals in her videos to gain attention and create content. Now I'm kind of questioning if she's doing this on purpose, because the first time she stole, I went on her TikTok and she had around 320 something thousand followers. Now that I went back on her TikTok, she has 422,000 followers. It's crazy how social media works, because you can do something so stupid like this, but you can still gain attention, a following, and a platform.
So when did you? She literally just said, "You know what? Here go 2 more for y'all. Y'all know that LeBron meme, bro." she doubled back on it, man. And it seems like just because she came, it's spiking in popularity, man. It's like, it's kind of sad how sometimes society rewards you for doing things of that nature, man. Do something wrong, and it goes viral. You gain a little bit of clout off of it, man. People, they just get addicted to that feeling, man. And she double backed on it. The thing is, like she said, she used the items in the video, so she's gonna get caught. She thought, well, she was gonna get away with it.
You realize you can already install new skills into your life. Anyone can be an expert in almost anything now without spending years learning it. Video editing, for example. Just a couple years ago, even if you had the most cutting-edge video editor on the market, you still needed to dedicate months, possibly even taking a whole course just to figure out how to use it. Today, insane AI video editors like Filmora 14 lets you do what decades-long professionals used to take years to learn by just clicking a few buttons. Take one-click smart short clips, for example, which takes a video, identifies key moments, and automatically compiles them into fully edited and engaging shorts. Just click, 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 and they're all there, and it's only getting better from here. The AI video enhancer takes your phone camera and upscales it to professional-grade, high-definition video with, again, just a couple taps. Maybe we can finally upscale those blurry UFO videos. And you also got the AI portrait cutout, which can turn any video into a green screen. Let's be honest, old-school green screens are clunky and inconvenient. Auto cutout in most editing apps today is splotchy and inconsistent at best. This perfectly cuts out any subject, any objects they're holding, and doesn't clash with similar colors on the person. So you can finally get over the dreaded invisible shirt syndrome. Seems obvious today, but I don't think you realize how painstaking cutouts like these were just a few years ago. Anyone could be a video editing expert in just a few days now. It's kind of scary to think about, but also the closest thing we currently have to human brain augmentation. This really is the first step to installing one-click kung fu into our minds, just like Neo. Download Filmora 14's free trial and just try to convince me the future isn't already here.
It's basically trying to say, man, the Matrix is already here, bro. You just one click, download, you learn skills like that, or you don't even have to do it. It does it for you. Man, I'm telling you guys, AIs, it has some great applications, man, but sometimes it can be scary, man, the things it can do. Scary to think about. Expert level, we know what that is.
Morbid Facts, Part 453. Italian man Marco Mariolini earned the nickname Anorexic Hunter due to his disturbing fixation towards emaciated women. But he wasn't simply drawn to women who were already thin. He wanted to actively shape them into emaciation by pushing their bodies to extreme levels of malnutrition. He made his wife starve herself, making her lose more than 70 pounds until he eventually broke up with her once he got her pregnant. Marco then started dating a woman named Monica, whom he would punch in the stomach if she ate anything he considered excessive. He would even take her to nice restaurants where he would eat in front of her while she was forced to starve.
Cruel.
One day Monica had enough and attacked him with a hammer before later turning herself in, only to end up facing house arrest with her monstrous partner. Marco would end up fatally stabbing her 22 times in retribution, and only spent a few years in prison before being released in 2021. By the way, I have no idea what's going on with that facial hair. It's totally unrelated to the story. Trust me.
Plastic surgeries that went wrong. Sahat Tobar.
This is
like
the
a doll.
scariest thing that could ever happen to you on the entire planet. Imagine living your entire life only to realise that it was all fake. This is 100% true and could happen to you. Time is relative. And if you're dreaming, it could actually only be 5 minutes in the real world, but it could feel like a whole day in the dream world, right? You've probably had a dream like that. So a while back, a young boy went to school. And this particular day, he was out in the playground and he got into a fight with some of the bullies there. It was quite a hefty fight. He got punched in the face and knocked down to the ground, but just managed to pick himself back up. After that, he decided to leave from the school school because it was quite bad, went to a new school and just carried on his life. He ended up being a very successful businessman, owning multiple businesses, having, you know, the dream life. 2 kids, all the dream cars, dream house, going on nice holidays every year, everything you could imagine. Till one day when it all changed. The guy was now in his 50s, so he'd lived his entire life, really, and had everything he ever wanted. And one night, laying on the couch watching TV with his family, he stared over at the light on the other side of the room, and he noticed it just looked strange. It didn't look like it had done before. It was almost blurry. It just didn't make any sense. And he became fixated on this every single day, every single night. He would sit there and stare at this lamp, trying to figure out what was going on with it, because it was almost 2D, and it just didn't make any sense. That was when the realization came that the lamp was never there. The lamp wasn't even real. His life flashed before his eyes, and the young boy then woke up on the playground after being beaten up by the bully. He was knocked out from the fight, and his mind had literally created this whole life just in his head in that 5 minutes where he was knocked out. But it felt like an entire life to him. So he woke up and was asking people, where are my kids? Where's my wife? Where's my car? What's going on? Everybody laughed at him. It was just like, you're literally a 10-year-old in school. What's going on? But this is genuinely real. This has actually happened to people, especially people who have been in comas. So what's to say we're not dead right now, and our minds are just creating this whole life that's not even real.
These are the most haunted.
Interesting theory. I mean, I've never been knocked out before, so, or been, like I said, I guess sleep for that period of time, man. But hear that your mind, bro. You hear that the mind is a powerful thing, man. But to make a whole life, and he said he was knocked out for 5 minutes, man. His mind just made up a whole life, man, to pass that time. That's crazy to think about. Obviously, we could be dreaming right now and we don't even know. I need you guys to stop down below on that one, man. That's tripping my mind out.
Haunted places in Lebanon. You guys requested this. Starting at number 3, Grand Hotel Bassouf. This hotel was built in the 1930s and damaged by the war. First-timers in this abandoned building get unusual vibes inside. Some people heard whispers of unknown beings, and others claimed not hearing anything at all. But this place stands as one of the biggest abandoned hotels in the country. Number 2, Bahaddoun's Abandoned Synagogue, also known as the Last Temple. This place of worship belonged to the Lebanese Jewish community and was built in the early 20th century. This place is too spooky, even in the daytime. Some people believe that Jewish jinns still lurk around these halls, protecting their place of worship, and no one will dare visit at night. And finally, number 1, Hotel Amriya. By far, one of the most haunted buildings in Lebanon. This place dates back to the 1960s, and it was famous for its theater and indoor cinema. Years later, this place was used for satanic rituals and black magic. Sometimes kids go there to communicate with jinns by playing the Ouija board. It is infested with bad energy and unknown beings. There are people that have seen figures, heard noises, and they have been physically touched inside. It's safe to say that whatever lurks in this building does not want to be disturbed. You tell me, what country should I do next?
X those hotels off the list, man. We learning, bro. If you go to Lebanon, don't go to any of those haunted hotels. Lesson learned, trust me. Things just never do.
This is officially the last day on Earth and the end of the world. If you're easily scared, please just keep on scrolling right now. Viewer discretion is advised. But yeah, tomorrow is officially the day of the solar eclipse, which me personally I don't think is a big deal. But according to many people on social media, it is the end of the world. But why? Over the last few days there's been a lot going on. Huge earthquakes all across the US, like way more than usual. That is like nuts. And across the world, in fact. There's now loads of weird stuff going on. There's a huge plague of cicadas and millions of other species which are going to America and going to infest everywhere. So if you live there, guys, have fun. Now tomorrow on the eclipse, CERN will be powering up their particle accelerator. And I mean, should we be concerned? Well, according to many sources, yes. There's been lots of videos emerging of CERN, and some of them are pretty weird. Like, I mean, just look at this, like what the hell is going on there? Now this thing is absolutely flipping huge, and absolutely flipping powerful. Apparently it's extremely destructive. One wrong move could cause a wormhole to open on Earth. We don't even know what could happen, there's so many theories about it. Now at the CERN headquarters, as you saw in that video, they literally have a giant Shiva statue, which is a bit odd. Which is, if you don't know, the god of destruction, like, great. Now, although that video was deemed as fake and they say it was just like a prank and set up, who actually knows? But yeah, according to a lot of people, this is going to cause the end of the world tomorrow and a lot of bad stuff is going to happen. So yeah, make sure you hit that follow button and I'll keep you updated, and save this video, and let's come back tomorrow night.
This was supposed...
Who would even pull a prank like that, man, in front of CERN? Maybe it's just to kind of throw a suspicion, man. But they, like I said, their freaking statue is Shiva, the Lord of Destruction, something like that. That's not something I would want my company to represent. So it's like they're trying to hide in plain sight. Be careful.
Supposed to be the happiest day of their lives, but hours after this beautiful wedding ceremony, Samantha Miller was killed. This tragic story is a reminder to not drink and drive. 34-year-old Samantha Miller and Eric Hutchinson got married in 2023 when only a few minutes after leaving their wedding ceremony, they were hit by a drunk driver. The driver, Jamie Lee Komorowski, was 3 times over the alcohol limit and was going 65 miles per hour in a 25 zone. Samantha and Eric, along with 2 other family members, were driving back home in a golf cart, which actually made the impact a lot more serious. Unfortunately, Samantha passed away still in her wedding dress, while Eric and the 2 other family members survived. Now, it's a miracle that everyone else survived, but their injuries were so severe that they say they can't even go back to doing the things they used to. And just a couple of days ago, Jamie was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Now, this case doesn't even end there, because the bride's mother, Elisa Miller, sued Eric, the bride's husband, for her daughter's estate. Lisa's attorneys are trying to challenge the validity of her daughter's marriage with Eric, saying that because they didn't spend the night together on the day of their wedding, the marriage is invalid. Eric offered to give Lisa half of the money to just put an end to the situation, but she refused and she just wants everything. Can you imagine losing your significant other on your wedding day and then having to deal with that grief, and then also having to deal with your own personal physical injuries, and then on top of that, you're being sued by your wife's mother?
This is why you should...
I would cause, man, I would completely just break down. It's supposed to be the happiest day of your life and it turned into the worst. Then on top of that, y'all fighting over money and stuff like that. He tried to give her half and she still wasn't going to take it. I don't know what to do, man. This sounds like a very, very bad situation to be in. Prayers to him and his family, and their whole family.
Should I communicate with the dead? A man who recently lost his father went to visit his resting place after lamenting his passing. Feeling frustrated for not being in contact with him for some time, he attempts to communicate with his spirit. Unable to get a response and filled with grief, he returns to his home. Then one night, while alone in his house, he hears someone or something coming from the kitchen.
Trying to communicate with spirits, I've only seen that go very badly. You hear that? Oh crap.
Feeling he may have invited something into his home, he begins to pray, demanding whatever's haunting him to leave his home. But on the next night, whatever that thing is decides to manifest itself in front of him.
Light ain't turning on. Is it like right in front of him? You saw that, right? It was literally like right in front of him, bro. I don't know if that was a spirit or something, or it could be an edit. You never know nowadays.
After a man went missing in Pennsylvania, what police discovered was traumatizing. David Hittinger was a 37-year-old man living in Pennsylvania. His friend contacted police earlier this month after becoming concerned for his welfare. He was reported missing after having not been seen in an unusual amount of time. It had apparently been his birthday, so it was incredibly strange that he hadn't contacted his friends at all. A search began to try and find David on the 13th of May. He was apparently last seen 2 days prior to this. Police began searching in locations that they knew that David may have been. This included the new home that he'd just moved into. He'd recently moved in with a 33-year-old named Joshua Mosa. What police found at the property was incredibly concerning. They found forensic evidence including hair and a large amount of blood. Horrifyingly, they also found a box cutter and a saw. There was also bloody clothing in the house. They then widened the search to the local area and tragically found several body parts in bin bags in different locations. Some were in the cemetery and some were in a quarry in Washington Township. It's reported that Joshua allegedly admitted to killing his roommate by strangulation. He's also alleged to have admitted hitting him in the head with a hammer. A motive is currently unknown. Joshua has been charged with criminal homicide, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence.
They heard strange noises coming from the restrooms, but as they go to check, this happened. A haunting video was uploaded by Ed Kukui, where a group of students are investigating strange noises in an empty restroom. An unknown banging sound can be heard, scaring the girls away. But as one of the girls decides to open the stall to see who's inside, they make a terrifying discovery.
No one.
The pale, lifeless body of the student can be seen in the corner of the stall as the girls run in fear. The figure appears to come out of thin air since the girls just looked inside. No one was seen. For this reason, viewers believe this apparition was the spirit of a student who now haunts the school.
The first girl was smart. She did this. I'm out. You're getting me today. Or do you think somebody could just put that there? Kind of look fake.
It's tough to say, but this picture could be the only one of the Blackwood Swamp witch. But to give you some context, on the photo, it was recovered from the phone of Roy Charleston in 2014, the same year that Roy had gone missing near or in Blackwood Swamp. While digging into the research on this, the reason Blackwood Swamp is significant is because people don't usually go into these woods. It's mostly because of these legends about the witch, these mysterious holographic symbols that tend to appear on the trees. You can find decades of records of people warning locals in the area to not go in to the swamp. But up to that point, nobody had really found anything in the woods other than like mysterious temples like this one, until they found Roy. Remains were located 4 days after his disappearance, and his throat had been sliced from end to end. The strange part about it is that it wasn't some kind of a weapon that was used to cut his throat. The examiner deemed it some kind of an animal attack, which kind of begs the question, was what he captured last on his phone the person or thing responsible? And if you want more scary stories this season, make sure to go check them out right on the podcast.
This Home Alone actor has pleaded guilty to a horrific crime. Devin Rattray became famous in the early 1990s as Buzz McAllister on the Home Alone films. He played Kevin's volatile and aggressive older brother on Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2. He has now pleaded guilty on 2 counts of DV to avoid prison time. The now 47-year-old actor was accused of violence against a woman in December 2021. His girlfriend at the time reported him to police after he punched her in the face, covered her mouth with his hand, and also attempted to strangle her. She told police officers that the pair had gotten into an argument at a bar. She left to go back to their hotel room, and that is where the assault occurred. The police report says that he allegedly threatened the woman, saying, "This is how you die." He pleaded guilty to 1 count of domestic assault and battery by strangulation, and another count of domestic assault and battery. He has been ordered to do behaviour intervention plan classes and have a substance assessment. It goes without saying that he has also been banned from contacting the victim in this case.
These two mothers. There goes our childhood, man. What's up with these actors, man? It's like once they hit their peak, bro, they just can't handle it, and they just turn to a completely different person. Home Alone, man. I wonder how many of our childhood movies, man, gets ruined each and every single year because of these actors, man. Sad thing.
Others in Las Vegas took their own lives 5 months apart from each other.
And suspiciously, they had been fighting the Las Vegas Police Department over an alleged double homicide cover-up. And this double homicide had ties allegedly to a child sex trafficking ring. So this is Judge Melanie Andreas Tobiasen. She was 55 years old, and on January 20th, 2023, after stepping down from her position as a judge a year ago, she took a gun and ended her life in her $2 million Las Vegas mansion. And on the left here is Connie Land. Connie was Judge Melanie's 53-year-old friend. Her daughter, along with her boyfriend, who is alleged to be her pimp, were murdered in 2016. And on August 10th, 2022, after fighting for justice for 6 years for her daughter, Connie took her own life. Which means that both of these women are now dead. So let's step back to a year before the murders happened. At this point, Judge Melanie is tipping off local authorities about the presence of an underage sex ring that's operating in Las Vegas. She's going on podcasts trying to raise the alarm. She's writing this down on court documents. And eventually, Melanie met Connie. But why did Melanie meet Connie? Well, apparently, Melanie thought that a man named Sugar Shane Valentine, the same man that had tried to lure her own daughter into prostitution, was the man that murdered Connie's daughter and her alleged boyfriend pimp. And this judge was a badass. She just wanted to find the truth and to expose this ring. She went on record one time and said that she went to Sugar Shane Valentine's house and kicked his door in asking for answers. And she even stated at one time that she had verbally threatened him because the police were not assisting her in her investigation whatsoever. She had presented the police with lots of evidence that this guy was involved in this sex trafficking ring. She knew that there were pedophiles linked to this ring that were directly profiting off of all of this. And she was passionate about finding the truth and protecting children. But unfortunately, a lot of times stories like this end in bizarre and strange circumstances. So apparently for a while before her death, Melanie had been telling loved ones of hers, "Remember, if I die, I didn't do it." She even told friends and family members that she was being followed. She knew she was being watched and she had been threatened. Apparently the hub for this sex trafficking ring was a clothing store called Top Notch. And the judge had tried to raise all these concerns about this store. Eventually, though, the store shut down because of a murder that occurred right out front. And the owner was arrested and sentenced to 45 years in prison for shooting and killing his own girlfriend. So obviously this was not a good place. She went on the record, though, and said that when she brought information about what was going on at Top Notch to the police, they ignored her. They said that they knew that places like this existed all over Vegas, but that they were kind of untouchable and that it was dangerous for her to go down this path. Something bizarre is that a number of detectives in Las Vegas have been told that they've been told to forget about and lay off of child sex trafficking stings and operations. It's kind of scary to think of how much power these organizations have, and it is suspicious that these two women that were fighting for justice died from allegedly their own hands only months ago.
Stay in prison. See, Japan's elderly population is skyrocketing, and with it, a shocking trend. There has been a surge in elderly women committing crimes like shoplifting deliberately to get sent to prison because the loneliness on the outside is so severe. In fact, in the last 20 years, the number of elderly inmates has risen by almost 300%. See, because on the outside, these women often live alone with no family to visit them or financial support to rely on. One inmate interviewed said her 43-year-old son, who she was living with, once said to her, "I don't care when you die, I wish you'd just go away." But now she's behind bars, she has routine, people to speak with, meals, and even medical care. Rather than shouting at them, the guards go as far as changing their diapers, helping them bathe, eat, and even take their medication. One said it now feels more like an elderly home rather than a prison full of convicted criminals. There's some that even say they will pay 20 to 30,000 yen a month just to live there forever. And even though they eat their meals in a cell alone in silence, just knowing that others are around is enough.
I was just about to say that. That doesn't sound like a prison. That sounds like an elderly home. But the fact that they have to go to that extreme just to get there, just so they won't feel alone anymore when their families left them, that's sad, truly.
Here's some of the dumbest crimes committed by children, except each time it gets dumber. A 12-year-old kid in Rockville, Maryland has admitted to police that he sent in at least 7 bomb threats to various schools in his area. And he said that he did it because he knew that he couldn't be charged for it. Which is true, because in Maryland, children under the age of 13 can only be charged for something that falls under a
crime of violence. The kid was smart enough to know the law, but dumb enough to call in a bunch of bomb threats for some reason. The kid might actually have a bright future ahead of him. At a theme park in North Carolina, a 13-year-old boy climbed inside of a claw machine to steal one of the toys and got stuck. According to reports, he spent 17 minutes inside of it until someone was able to come pull him out, after which he was banned from the park for a year for attempted theft and being a dumbass. In North Carolina, a 6-year-old boy was arrested for picking flowers from a yard while waiting at a bus stop. The crazy part is he actually had to go to court for destruction of property. The kid's attorney was quoted saying the boy's attention span was so short she had to give him a picture to color during the trial. Thankfully, the case was dismissed, but this happened because North Carolina has one of the lowest minimum ages for criminal charges, and most recently it was just raised to 8 years old. My question is, who the hell is calling the cops on a 6-year-old?
Yeah, who? And the fact that he had to go to court for picking flowers? What's wrong with people, man? This is a kid. You can't let that slide. It's not like you're doing anything destructive.
In the world right now. If the Chiefs defeat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, the Eagles' all-time record will be 666 wins and 666 losses. A judge annulled the marriage of a couple after the bride came to the court and said that she only participated in the wedding because she thought it was a social media prank. Another judge sentenced a woman for setting a home on fire with 3 other people in it using Takis tortilla chips. A bank robber was dazed and confused when his getaway bike was stolen. A Texas teenager was accused of using poison to end the life of a rival's competition show goat. A man in Cleveland was quoted saying he's tired of cars running into his house all the time after 3 have crashed in the last 10 years. A man in California was arrested after he told the officer he was the DUI instead of the DD. A woman was rescued after getting caught in an Italian cave for the 2nd time in 2 years. The EU fined the EU for breaking EU data protection law.
Fun facts you wouldn't believe are true. Godzilla is an actual citizen of Japan. Some species of jellyfish are actually immortal. The patent for a fire hydrant was destroyed in a fire. Outer space is only 62 miles away. You could drive there in an hour. If you flattened your lungs out, they would have about the same surface area as a tennis court. Saturn is the lightest planet. If there was a big enough body of water, it would float. An astronaut spacesuit runs about $12 million. The moon looks close, but you can actually fit every planet in the solar system between the Earth and the moon. In a lab here on Earth, scientists created a plasma that reached a temperature of 9.9 trillion degrees Fahrenheit. Over 50,000 people on Earth have alien abduction insurance policies.
Here are 3
I need to
ways
get
to
on
hack
that.
your body. Number 1, if your arms ever fall asleep, just shake your head like this and it will go away instantly. Number 2, if you ever have a stuffy nose, just hold your breath until you have to breathe again, and this will give you adrenaline, which will clear your sinuses. And number 3, if you ever have to really go to the bathroom but there's no place to go, just scratch the back of your calf as hard as you can. This will actually stall your brain, making it that you forgot you ever had to go.
I need to try that to see if that's actually true.
Facts that I wish I didn't know. When you die, the last thing to go is your hearing. So as all your other mortal sensations are leaving this world, the last thing you're ever going to experience are the sounds going on around you, which very well could be like your family members crying or cheering. By the year 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish. When pigs get a cold, like a cough, very often they will shoot their intestines out of their anus, and farmers have to, like, stuff it there.
What? I heard that about pigs, but I assumed it was cat.
Human body
How does
parts
that
that are
happen?
completely useless now. Number 1 is your external ear. Auricular muscles control the visible part of the ear, but humans have lost the ability to control this muscle, and other mammals can move their ears with these muscles in order to detect prey and localize sound. Next is wisdom teeth. About 85% of adults nowadays will have at least 1 wisdom tooth. Our ancestors used to have larger jaws, so wisdom teeth fit better, which is why we get ours removed now, and it was the answer for the need for chewing power that they needed. Next is body hair. Body hair was once required for warmth, and you can see we've lost a lot of it over time. We now have it in a reduced form. Next is your appendix. In plant plant-eating mammals, the appendix helps digest cellulose, and the appendix might not be completely useless. A recent study found that it helps aid in good gut bacteria. So let's say you have diarrhea and your intestines are flushed out, it provides good bacteria back to your gut after that.
This is the fifth scariest movie according to science. Paranormal Activity, released December 3rd, 2008. Before watching this movie, your beats per minute is around 62. While watching the movie though, it's bumped up to 85, making it a 15% difference in your beats per minute. A woman and a husband move into their dream home in San Diego. Unfortunately, since the woman could remember, she had felt like she had a weird paranormal presence around her that wasn't good. After the first couple nights of living in the new house and they can't sleep, the husband then sets up a camera in the bedroom, and the things they see, well, I guess you're just gonna have to watch the movie. The movie, as I said, is called Paranormal Activity, and it is supposedly the fifth scariest movie, according to science.
Not for me. I know I don't do scary movies.
If you're celebrating Halloween, you need to know about this movie. This movie was so popular when I was a kid, but I realized a lot of people actually don't know about it. Trick or Treat is a 2007 horror movie that includes 5 different Halloween-themed horror stories. So I'm gonna explain all 5 of them. The first story, called Opening, is about Emma and her boyfriend Henry who go home on Halloween night. Emma blows out a jack-o'-lantern and starts tearing down all their Halloween decorations, not knowing that someone is watching her, and she's just made a terrible mistake. The second story, Principal, begins with Charlie stealing candy from his high school principal's house when trick-or-treating, but then he gets caught by the principal, who seems to be hiding a secret double life. The third story is probably the most well-known, called Halloween School Bus. A group of teens go to a flooded quarry, where one of them tells the group about the urban legend of the Halloween school bus. And in this urban legend, 8 disabled students were unalived by a school bus driver, because their parents all asked the school bus driver to get rid of them, as the parents were tired of taking care of them. Then we find out this might not be an urban legend after all. The fourth story, Surprise Party, is about a group of women who meet a hooded man dressed as a vampire. This story has a very interesting plot twist that you won't see coming. And the last story, Sam, is about the neighbor of the principal from the second story. And he hates Halloween. But as he walks out of his house, he realizes his entire lawn is full of jack-o'-lanterns. And there's mysterious messages written all over. In this story, it's finally revealed who this creepy pumpkin from the movie poster truly is. Follow for more.
Now, I'm sure we've all fallen asleep before and our arm went to sleep, right? And all you need to do to get rid of it is shake your head from left to right and it'll be gone instantly. Next, if you ever feel the urge to pee really bad but you can't find a restroom anywhere, start rubbing the back of your legs just like this. And in theory, it should just stop the urge instantly, because it'll force your brain to forget about it. And if you're ever enjoying a nice ice cream and you start getting brain freeze, try to warm up your thumb and put it in the roof of your mouth as flat as possible. Apparently, this will make your brain freeze go away instantly. And finally, if like many others you're having troubles falling asleep, try to blink your eyes super fast for 60 seconds, because it'll make your eyes tired, which will make it easier for you to fall asleep.
Just blink. These we getting the ultimate life hacks, with these clips. Psychological facts we need to know. The internet. Yeah, stay off the net. That's some good advice. You feel the same way? 3 to 4 a.m.? Really complicated relation. You don't say. Nicest people look mean at first. That's true. I can believe that one. Songs, they do express feelings and emotions, so.
Southeast Oklahoma. On a foggy day in 1970, a group of high school kids are cruising the back roads of Southeast Oklahoma. One of the boys had to pee, so they pulled over. He got out of the truck, walked about 50 yards into the woods so that he couldn't be seen. He heard a tree snap, looked up, and he's staring in the eyes of a creature 3 foot taller than any man. It had matted hair, red eyes, and blood dripping off its chin. The boys ran as fast as they could back to the truck, yelling, "Start the truck, start the truck!" But what happens next is terrifying. The boys go to the sheriff's department, and when the deputy goes out to investigate, all he sees is animal carcasses everywhere, and the legend of the Green Hill Monster was born.
Green Hill Monster? We're gonna have to definitely do some research on that. That's my first time even hearing about that. That's why I watch these clips with you guys, man. Always expand my knowledge base.
Alright, for real, and I'm gonna show you exactly why. It's always the guy with the backwards baseball cap talking about this goofy shit. How's it going? My name's Vinny Santoro. I got a bachelor's of business from UMass Lowell. I like your chain though, dude. No hard feelings. I know a paisan when I see one. I just gotta give you a hard time. Your thing grew a lot bigger because of oxygen levels. You should start teaching critical thinking at UMass Lowell. The time when there was more oxygen was like 200 million years ago, and the only thing that got bigger was insects. If this was a tree, the branches would be in like the goddamn troposphere. Does that make any sense? We read about them everywhere. They're in the Bible. They're right. But wait till you hear this. This book is called The Phantom Toll Booth, and in it there's a dog with a clock in it. Liberal media wants you to think this doesn't exist, but it literally says it right there in the book. The Smithsonian, they had their fingers in all of these reports. I love how many conspiracy theorists cite the whole Smithsonian destroyed giant skeletons claim literally originated in 2014 on a satire website. It was literally like The Onion. So you'll get these videos of these conspiracy theorists who are like, yeah, I have my third eye open, I read between the lines, and their source is like fucking clickhole.
This creepy painting is actually some sort of evil apparition. Let's talk about the Rat Queen from the Layers of Fear remake. And of course, spoilers ahead. The Rat Queen also exists in the original versions of Layers of Fear 1 and 2, but we're going to be focusing on the remake. The Rat Queen appears mostly as a painting in the stories of the painter from Layers of Fear 1 and the actor from Layers of Fear 2. She seems like a malevolent force that rats are drawn to, but it's unclear as to what her intentions are. What's really happening is that in the remake, the writer is writing the stories of the painter and the actor. For those of you not familiar with the series, these are character names. At the beginning of the writer's time living in the lighthouse, she unknowingly enters a pact with the painting of the Rat Queen. And part of that pact is the Rat Queen helping her turn those stories into successful books. However, this comes at a cost, and the writer ended up losing her son as a result of the pact. She returned to the lighthouse to burn the Rat Queen painting, but was met with a surprise. The physical form of the Rat Queen appeared and locked her in the lighthouse forever.
It's a
People are
spooky
freaking out
story.
trying to get the new Lamborghini profile icon, but everyone's getting scammed trying to do it. Over the last few months, there's been loads of profile icons coming out, and now you may have seen this new McLaren one going about. Quite cool, especially compared to some of the other ones we've had, but no one actually knows how to get it. A lot of people were saying that if you just type McLaren in the comment section, it comes up and gives it to you, but it definitely doesn't. But what is the actual way to do it? Well, I'll tell you right now. But first of all, you've got to go over to Tate McRae's page, who, if you don't know, is this person right here. Click on her profile picture and it will come up with this, and you press Get Frame. After that, it will take you to this page, which comes up with her new release and loads of stuff, where then, similar to the Squid Game one, you have to take part in a few challenges, complete these things before you can get it, such as following her, posting a video to the song, and also putting that in the hashtags of the video. Once your video is done, set to public and posted, after you've done this and the video is posted, the frame should just pop up on your page. If it doesn't, just click on your profile picture, go to frames where you can see all of yours, and select this one, and there you go. Scariest.
So I guess that's how people be manipulating the system. Gotta do all that just, and people be doing that just to get an icon of a car on top of their profile. I wonder how many artists does that trick, man. They call it marketing, but could be looking at, as manipulating the market, man. I don't know.
Things ever found in the woods. A biker was in a Colorado forest when he found a metal wire tied across two trees. Soon more bikers began reporting the same thing. Someone had even lost their lives to one of these wires. It seems someone wants to harm bikers for some reason. Police have been looking into this, but so far have not found whoever's doing it. In December 2014, a man heard screaming coming from the woods behind his house.
It's a kid screaming for his dad.
You can hear a girl screaming "Daddy" and an adult voice saying "Where are you?" The man who heard this said he checked the news every day, but heard nothing about the incident on the news. Some people commented on this, saying it may have been a setup for a kidnapping, but really, we don't know. One day, a Forest Service officer was doing a routine patrol of a trail in Utah. That's when he noticed a tripwire tied between two trees. He followed the wire, and it led him to this. A ball made of rocks and sharpened sticks, which was set to fall when the tree tripwire was hit. That was bad enough, but he soon found another trap on the same trail. A tripwire pulled tight, which would cause people to fall into a bed of sharpened sticks. Police began investigating this, which led them to two men, Benjamin Rodkowski and Kai Christensen. They claimed the traps had been set for animals, but the police did not believe this. The two men were later sentenced to 30 days in jail.
Just 30 days? These are some Rambo crap. Just 30 days? That ain't enough. You saw that dragonfish? That always blows my mind, man, when we go like under the sea, and we just find new creatures. I'm pretty sure the
Here are
dragonfish
6
ain't
facts that sound completely fake but are 100% true. I can pretty much guarantee one of these will be the coolest thing you've heard all day. Firstly, Picasso was alive at the same time as Eminem and Charles Darwin. Let that sink in for a second. What? Stonehenge was a tourist attraction for ancient Romans. The can opener wasn't invented until 48 years after the can. I mean, what? I imagine a lot of you enjoy eating oysters. I absolutely fucking do not. So might you after this fact. I'm so sorry. Oysters are always served to you alive. They only die when they go down your gullet. I mean, that's just What? If you shuffle a deck of cards, it is statistically likely that you've shuffled them in an order that has never existed before and will never exist again. Essentially, you were the first person in history to shuffle them in that exact sequence. Oh, and while we're on the topic of just what the fuck, there are more ways to play a game of chess than there are atoms in the observable universe. And if you type this into the comments, you unlock a secret TikTok emoji. Okay, that's enough warning for the day. Everyone with me?
Really?
Let's talk about a disturbing horror game that left me with more questions than answers. I Live Under Your House. Full game playthrough on my channel. This entire game is an enigma. You play as an unnamed creature that we never get to see. The only thing we know about your character is that they live underground beneath modern human civilization. You don't like leaving your tunnels, you don't want to go to the surface. But in this game, you have to. Loud construction work occurring directly above you causes you to investigate the surface, and you end up coming face to face with the human couple. The main hook of the gameplay is the amazing art style and trying to figure out what exactly you are. And the ending of this game, as well as its DLC, were certainly not what I expected.
So check that out. I think I could check out some scary
This is genuinely
games.
one of the most disturbing videos I have ever seen. It is the final footage that was found of a man who got lost in the Paris catacombs. In the 90s, a group of explorers were going through the catacombs of Paris, and they were getting pretty deep in there when they found a camera that was just abandoned. And upon reviewing the footage, they realized that it was from a man who was exploring down there, but he got lost. Watching the footage is incredibly chilling because he's picking up bones and skulls while he's exploring, but there's a point where either he hears something or he sees something and he begins running. He's running frantically and you can hear his breath getting louder and louder and louder. There's points where he doesn't know which way to turn, and finally, as he's running, he drops the camera. Based off of the paintings that people were able to see in the footage and the testimony of the people who found the camera, this man was insanely deep underground in the catacombs. He was really far into the uncharted sections. And you may have heard of the film As Above, So Below, the movie that was actually inspired by this footage. As Above, So Below is a found footage horror movie about a group of people going into the Paris catacombs trying to find a hidden chamber to find the Philosopher's Stone, the secret to eternal life, but they actually end up going into the layers of hell. And the creators of this film saw this found footage from the 90s and it inspired them to make their own movie. So As Above, So Below is based on a true story. I'm doing a whole episode over on my pod, Frightful Fandom, talking about the history of the catacombs, what they were used for, this very unfortunate true life case, and of course, As Above, So Below.
Here are 10 creepy, disturbing, and scary facts you didn't know. Part 2. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. Until 1974, it was illegal to appear in public in the city of Chicago if you were ugly. During the early 1990s, a serial killer named Joseph Metheny owned a burger stand located in Baltimore, Maryland. After his arrest in 1996, he confessed to feeding his customers the flesh of at least 3 humans he had murdered. A new homeowner was shocked to find a rag doll boarded up in a wall cavity, clutching a note saying she killed a family. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, we still don't know where that signal came from. The movie The Hills Have Eyes was based on the true story of the Bean Clan. a Scottish family who would secretly ambush, kill, and eat travelers for 25 years. In 1957, two sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, were killed in a tragic car accident. A year later, their mother gave birth to twins, Jennifer and Jillian. Then it gets weird. Jennifer, the younger twin, had scars and birthmarks on her body that were identical to Jacqueline's, the deceased younger sister. The twins began to ask for toys that had belonged to the deceased girl, toys they had no knowledge of. Albert Fish, an American serial killer, boasted that he killed in every state and claimed to have had over 100 victims. What makes him even more sickening is that he sent letters to his victims' parents to tell them how good their children tasted. A man named Francesco Lentini had 3 legs, 4 feet, 16 toes, and 2 sets of functioning male genitals. He worked for a circus and lived until the age of 78. In 2011, Anatoly Yurovich was arrested after 12 dolls were found in his apartment. However, they weren't regular dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that he had dug up, dressed up, and displayed. Like for part 3.
Y'all do not know what will be going through people's minds when they do things like that. That was chilling. Very chilling. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on this video. Comment down below if you guys learned anything new. Also hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.